Welcome, guys, to Savage Waterman Podcast. I am joined today by Derek Depew. We're going to get into a lot of stuff, but real quick, I want to read his intro. He's a police officer in the south suburbs of Chicago and has worked in law enforcement since 2005. He's married and a father. He loves spending time in the gym and outdoors, which helps him keep a clear head and overcome any mental hurdles he's facing. He continues to share his story in hopes of helping people overcome their fears, weakness, and the mental hurdles they may face. So thank you, Derek. I really appreciate you coming on. I really want to get into some stuff with you, but I want to announce first, people on my social media saw that I did the 1,000 push-ups probably about a month ago, and you also did it. You crushed my time. It took me about, almost 2 hours to do, a little over 2 hours. And why did we do the 1,000 push-ups? And tell me a little bit about your experience doing it.
Sure. So you did awesome, by the way. Honestly, watching you do them is what brought my attention to it. Somehow I missed it.
Yeah.
But the push-ups were for a charity, and the charity is for kids who are less fortunate. Go to school and brings new shoes, and in turn brings confidence when they're walking into school. Some of these kids are less fortunate, don't have the nice things. With the area I work, I see this, right? A lot of the kids that live where I work do not have nice things. So they're going to school in hand-me-downs, wore-out shoes, but bringing a nice pair of shoes into school, it does bring a little level of confidence. So, but I think maybe I got that mixed up. Was that for the shoes?
Well, you did the assault. I think that was for the assault death bike. I call it a death bike, but the assault.
Oh yeah, that's right. I mixed that up.
No, but we could talk about that too. You got me into that group, and I was traveling. I went to Mark Evans' group, and then I went to Cabo the next day, and they don't have assault bikes there. I looked, but that one was for the assault 100 miles, or what was that one?
100 miles, yeah.
100 miles on an assault bike. And for those that don't know, the assault bike is where you kind of, if you're into UFC, they're always trying to cut weight, and they're on those assault bikes, and it's a brutal machine that kicks your ass. And you, Dustin Johnson, a lot of the guys did 100 miles, and that was unbelievable. But we'll get into that one as well. But this one was 1,000 push-ups. I think for Mark, I don't even know the gentleman. Dustin Johnson called me out and said, I said, oh, I'm always interested in your crazy challenges. 2 seconds, he wrote 1,000 push-ups on Sunday. I'm like, well, shit, okay. I haven't done a push-up in a while, but we'll give it a shot. And that was brutal, but yeah.
That was his birthday gift. That's right. He asked for people to do 1,000 push-ups for his birthday, and that was his gift to him. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I couldn't pass it up. So I jumped into it as well. And actually, what's funny is it was Sunday. It was the last day, or it was the last few hours of Sunday. I just finished dinner. It was like 6:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And I saw the post, and I was like, babe.
That's the great thing about people like us, is we won't say no to a challenge. And something like that, like I didn't even think twice about it. After I accepted the challenge, I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? And then he had a breakdown of like 10 every minute for 11 minutes, and then 12. That was great and fine and dandy for the first 6, and then that went out the window, and then it was just surviving after that. That was brutal.
So I calculated in my head, and I told her, I said, I'll be done in an hour. She goes, what? And I said, I'll be done in an hour. I said, the guy just did it in 54 minutes. I'll be done in an hour. And she goes, how are you going to do 1,000 push-ups? I said, well, here. I started breaking it down for her. She's like, never mind. I don't want to know. So I broke it down. I said, I figured if I could, for as long as I could withstand 20 push-ups a minute, then I'm gonna do it, right? And I knew that if I could make it to like minute 16 or 18, then I could back off to 15 a minute, and I would be good. So that's why I just finished eating dinner, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna give it 30 minutes. That should be plenty of time. It wasn't plenty of time.
Yeah,
man. And it was probably like 98 degrees with 100% humidity. And she goes, you should do them inside. And I go, she goes, it'll be that much easier. I go, yeah, that's why I'm not going to do it inside. I'm going to do it outside. I'm going to make this worth it. If I'm going to suffer, I'm just going to go all in.
Yeah. But you did yours, and what was your final time?
1,005 push-ups and 59.56.
That is impressive, my man. It took me, I did 300 in the morning, just in my house, knocked them out. And then I'm like, I'm trying to crash. So I took my dogs for a walk, and then I just stopped and did 10 random throughout. So I did another 200, and then I came back home and I finished the rest of them. But it took me, like I said, almost 2 hours. And then I saw your post of like a guy did it in 54 minutes. You did it. I'm like, that's unbelievable. Like, yeah, I couldn't do it under an hour for sure. So very impressive.
The guy that did it in 54 minutes is like 6 years older than me. So I'm like, I got this. I can't let him beat me. You know what I mean? That's in my head. I'm like, there's no way I'm crushing this time. I have to beat this guy.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, yeah, but like, that's a lot. I'm like,
Yeah.
quit putting doubt in my head. I said, I'm going to do this. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It
I was already worn down from the push-ups I did the 2 months before. Like my body was, I was beat up.
Yeah.
But
Well, I had a jiu-jitsu tournament that following week, and my instructor was like, "What are you doing these 1,000 push-ups for? You know you got a tournament coming up." I'm like, "Yeah, no worries. I still think I'm 21, right?" And I was sore in some random spots after those push-ups, and I videotaped them all. And I'm very strict about my push-ups. I'm not art. I'm trying to do them all correct. But it was, like I said, I took, Dustin gave me the breakdown of like 11 for every minute until the first 10. Whatever this breakdown was sounded great. And I threw it out the window in like minute 6, and I broke it down to like 5. By the time I was like the last 100, I was just knocking out 5, taking a breather, 5, 5, 5. And then finally finished. I was like, I'm done with these. I'm never doing that again until somebody else challenges me something goofy. I'll do it again. But yeah, that was awesome.
I'm running through those 20s and I'm at like into 10. And in my head's like, all right, I think you're good. You could probably back off. And I'm like, man, no, fuck you. I'm doing 20. I'm gonna keep it going until I fall over, and then I have to back it off.
Yeah.
And it was like minute 13. I was like I literally couldn't push myself off the ground. So I was like, well, I'm gonna pause a minute. I'm still ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So I took a minute break. What I did was I waited till the end of the next minute, which was terrible because then I had to jump right back in and do another 15.
Yeah.
But what that did was, as I got down a little further into like minute 30 and 40, like I could push out a random 20 here and there.
That's impressive.
So then when I got to like minute 56, 58, I paused for a minute to count. I'm like, okay, I'm good. If I just do this, this is, and I got to minute 58, it was like 58:30. I was like, all right, I think I'm done. So I started counting and I was like 8 short. And I literally, that set that I just finished, I like my arms collapsed. I couldn't push myself off the ground anymore. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do 8, but I'm just going to. So I just cleared my mind. I said, 8. Everybody could do 8 push-ups, right? I could do 8 push-ups. Anybody could do 8 push-ups. And I just eliminated that thought that I just did 992 push-ups. And I just kept telling myself, all right, 8, right? I did 1. Okay, there's 1. I mean, you got a minute and a half to do, and I just worked through it. And I was able to and when I hit that number 8, I was shaking so bad, and I hit the top and my arm just done. Went face first in the pavement. I was like, and I just hit the stop button, and it was at 59:56. So I just made it under the hour. But
Good job for you. How different was that mental challenge as opposed to the 1,000 or the 100-mile death bike, assault bike?
so that was more of a huge. So the assault bike challenge. I haven't been on a assault bike in like 6 years.
Yeah.
When I was doing my therapy, I was run over by a car, so I had a bunch of surgeries. I was doing therapy for that, and they put me on it for like 30 seconds to warm me up. But it's like I'm going at level 10, just real slow. So it wasn't like I was on the assault bike. So for me, I was like, I don't know if I can even do this. Like it was in the realm of I don't know.
But you thought about that after you'd already committed to it, right?
Yeah. I didn't own an assault bike, so I ran on a Facebook marketplace. I found one for $35. The guy just pulled it out of his barn. He's like, "Yeah, my brother passed. I pulled it out of his barn, $35." I'm like, done.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I woke up. I was like 5 o'clock in the morning. The sun's just coming up. I wheeled the assault bike out there and I started going. It was super foggy and it was humid as shit. And I'm going to work on this thing. And I'm like 10 miles in, right? And the computer goes black. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? like, how am I supposed to get this in? So I took it all apart, wiped it all down, put new batteries in it, came back. I was like, cool. 5 miles in, dies again. I'm like, oh, and I couldn't get it to turn back on. It was toast at that point. I was like, I'm already gassed. By like mile 2 in the beginning, I was toast. But I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to keep going. Just going to keep going. I could do this forever.
Yeah.
So I started calling around, and nobody. I don't live. I know I work near Chicago, but I live like an hour from there, and I'm in a much smaller town.
Yeah.
There's only 3 gyms. One of them was a Planet Fitness, and they have a really shitty version of an assault bike. So I was like, I'm not even going to do that because that doesn't count. If I have to buy an assault bike and do this, I will.
Yeah.
There's a YMCA close by. So I called them. They're like, yeah, we have 2 of them. It's like, cool. So I race over there. I buy a day pass. I go in there, and I start going after it, right? And it hits 1 hour, and the machine shuts off. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Somebody
So
doesn't want you on an assault bike, my man.
no. So now I'm looking around, and on the wall it says, please do not use the machines for more than an hour. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Nobody in their right mind is going to come to this gym and use the assault bike. All 4 of them are sitting there, and the whole, now mind you, I was there for 5 hours, or 4 hours and 20 minutes. It was 5 hours total of what it took me to do the whole thing. 5 hours and 54 minutes. In the 4.5 hours there, not one person walked over and got on that stupid bike. So it's not like I was holding machines up. And then, so I get like 3 miles in, and the machine shuts off. Because apparently, if you use the other setting, it's a timer countdown, and it was only for 25 minutes or something like that. So it was a constant battle. Like I'd get in the groove, and then I have to stop, and I have to start up again, and it was terrible. Um,
There was no kill switch where you can turn that off and just keep plowing through it?
no,
Wow.
no. So every hour, I had to restart the machine and then go again. And I know the lady that was cleaning was watching me. She knew I was on there for way longer, but she didn't say shit. Like I said,
Yeah.
it said, please follow the rules. So I made a snap. I was like, yeah, rules are meant to be broken. I'm on this motherfucker for 5 hours.
Wow. Well, that one was for a good cause, right? I mean, the good cause for Mark's birthday, but also this one was for the shoes, and talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that charity.
So that was a fundraiser.
Mhm.
So for every so many miles, there was X amount donated. Every $50 donated bought a pair of shoes. So it
Mhm.
ended up being like, we got like 20 some $1,000 donated between
Yeah,
the 6 or 8 of us that did it.
that's great.
So yeah, they told us, I can't remember the number of kids, but it was quite a few kids were able to get shoes. So it was pretty
Yeah.
cool to be able to be a part of that. So I was
That's
able to suffer. I'm like, I've suffered for less. So
yeah, that's awesome, and I like that you overcame the obstacles of whatever force trying to keep you off of that damn thing. I like it. You're determined. I like it.
it was, it almost broke me. At one point, I was like, oh, fuck it. I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'll just, in my mind, I thought, well, I'll just tell them this broke, and and I'm like, no, no, that's not right. Because then I'm just making up an excuse why I didn't finish it. I'm going to get this done.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where that led to. And even my wife's like, they can't ever say that you're not determined.
How sore were you after the assault bike challenge?
So right when I got done, I came home and I jumped in an ice bath, and I sat in there for about 30 minutes. And then I got an extremely hot shower, and then I jumped back in the ice bath. I supplemented real well, and honestly, during the assault bike, I had some protein bars and some electrolyte packs. So I was trying to stay, even when because there was a few times where I just stopped sweating, and I was like, "That's not good." I
Mhm.
start, electrolyte pack, and then I drink water and whatever. So I think that helped. I hurt like hell. So for me, it's always 2 days later. The next day, I'm always fine. But then that evening and then into the next morning, I'm always miserable.
Yeah.
I was hurting, just not as bad as after the push-ups. I think
Really?
I depleted everything I had.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever sweat that bad. And I can tell you, I was in bed for 4 days after that. I couldn't even move. I couldn't walk.
The
I was
assault bike one or the push-up?
push-ups.
Really?
Like I pushed myself that hard that it just took me out. And then I think because my body was so depleted, I caught something. I caught some bug. I drank in 2 days. I drank 4 bottles of Pedialyte and those liquid IVs. I had 3 of those. Plus, I probably went through 15 bottles of water. And
Wow.
and if I paused from drinking at any point in time, my veins would get sunk, and I would just be like, I think I really overdid it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I do is like whenever I really go nutty, I usually end up getting sick because my body's just like, you're done. We have no more energy to fight this little thing that's coming. And I always find that to happen. Like when I did jiu-jitsu tournaments or something, and the next couple of days I'm a little weak and little like, okay, hopefully I don't get too sick. So yeah. Well, what's the next challenge you're gonna do? What has anybody put anything out there?
Nobody's put anything out yet. Honestly, I put in for the first form athlete search.
What's that?
So basically, they just look for professional athletes to promote their brand or whatever. So it's kind of like an influencer, but they pay you, right? So I think it's like $50,000 sign on, but they only take the top.
Mhm.
So I thought it came while I was laying in bed recovering from those push-ups. The ad came up, and I was like, "Eh, why not?" My wife's like, "You're an idiot. You're a complete idiot." She she
Yeah.
she always has my back, but it always comes with choice words.
Yeah. Well, my wife told me when we were in Cabo last month, and I actually went there 213, 214, and I came home because I was worried about the tournament I was in. I was fighting at 208, and I'd actually gone down to 204. And because all I did was surf, like I would surf in the morning to get my good waves, the big waves, and then I'd surf all day with my kid. He's 9, and so we surf smaller stuff. And I literally was just surfing so much, pool and all running around. My wife goes, "Josh, you know you're not 21 anymore. You might want to slow down." I'm like, "No, I just go, 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 just keep going." And sure, I'm the only guy who goes to Cabo on vacation and loses 10 pounds. So it
That's awesome.
we can't say no, right? We're just kind of we just that's why I'm waiting to see what Dustin comes up with another challenge because I don't even think twice about it. I go, "Yep, I'm in," and then I started thinking about, "Oh shit, what did I just sign up for? What am I going to put my body through this time?" But I'm 47. If I stop, told somebody the other day, I'm going to do shit like this until the wheels fall off because once like if I do get sick, like I had COVID like a month ago, 2 months ago, that's when all my ailments. I've had broken bones, hands, my knee place, everything starts aching and hurting when I'm sitting in a bed just trying to recoup. And so I
Yeah.
figure, hey, if the day ever comes where I can't do something, that's when it's all going to shut down. All my stuff I've done throughout my life, try to be fit and all that is all going to take its toll towards the end. And so I'm just never going to stop. I'm just going to keep going.
And I think part of the problem was, so I started a push-up challenge. So when I did the 1,000 push-ups, I was in the middle of another push-up challenge, which was 100 push-ups a day for 30 days. And I was in like day 20.
Yeah, I
But
think I
I
remember
had just
asking about that.
completed the other one.
Yeah,
So I just did the other one, which was 100 push-ups a day for 10 days. And then you add 10 push-ups a day
yeah,
for 30 days, right? Well, at the end of 30 days, my dumbass, I'm like, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep this going. They're like, well, you just did 5,000 push-ups in a month. I said, I got more in me. I got
yeah,
more in me. It's like, all right, well, post your videos so we can follow along. That's awesome. I was like, all right. So it ended up being, I was finishing up my last day, and it was like I was supposed to do like 680 or something, 720 push-ups for that day, something like that. And I started doing the math, and it came out to be like 19,000, and it was like 800 or
wow,
750 or something. I was like, I can't do that. Like, I have to have an even number. I'm going to 20,000. So I ended up doing almost 1,000 push-ups that day, just so I just finished my 20,000 push-ups, and then I went into that 100 a day, and then in the middle of that, he's like, "Oh, I'll do 1,000 push-ups." I'm like, "I'm already primed for this. Let's go."
yeah, yeah. See, I was reversed. I don't really do push-ups because I got a bad shoulder, so I kind of stay away from that stuff. And so when he said 1,000 push-ups, I said yes, and then I was like, I don't even know if I can do 10 or 100. Like I haven't done push-ups in so long, so it was good. It was fun. I like doing it, and we meet again in the next one too. So we can't say no. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, good. Congratulations on that. You're a warrior. I love it. Let's get a little bit into your police being a law enforcement. You've been almost 20 years now, right? 2005. Was that something you always wanted to do? How did you get into that?
So I'll be honest with you, man. I wasn't. Um, so through school, I played sports,
Mhm.
um, baseball. I wrestled a little bit of football, mostly baseball. And I got in my senior year, and where I went to school wasn't the best, right? Same thing. I grew up in a kind of a rough neighborhood, and so I got started hanging with the wrong crowd. My grades slipped, and I had some scholarships to a couple pretty big schools for baseball, and I lost them because of my grades. So I came out of high school, and my plans were always to play baseball. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
So a friend of mine called me, and he said, "Hey, why don't you? I'm going to go to school for to be a conservation officer." And so just to give you a background, like I'm huge into hunting. Like that's been part of my life since I was a little boy. And so I was like, "Oh, that'd be cool. You know, those guys get to ride around four wheelers and all this shit. I'm like, that'd be awesome." So we go to school for that, right? We get out, we start testing, and it's like anytime a position opened up, it would be they're hiring one, right, for this state or one for that state. And every time I'd go, it'd be like 12,000 people would apply. It was insane. So, I traveled to Ohio, Michigan, I was everywhere. Same results always. And so I got thinking, I was like, well, I've got the degree. I've got the degree in law enforcement. I said, why not? So I started applying. Even then, it was about 4.5 years of dedicated applying to police departments.
Really?
So something about that is a lot of times the police departments won't hire you if they have no knowledge of who you are. Because let's just face it, Joe Schmo comes off the street and they turn in an app and you start doing a little bit of background on them. You don't know who they are. If you were to get a job within the police department, something else, and they get to know you,
Mhm.
then they see that you're a good character and they could pick you up. Or if you get picked up somewhere else, somehow. So that's basically how that works.
Yeah.
So you have to, when you show up, give them no other option but to hire you. So after 4.5 years, I mean, I'm kind of a slow learner. I figured out a formula where I can get my uh, like working out the best I could. So I can come in first in all the physical stuff. I can still do half-ass on the written because I'm dummy. I'm a dummy when it comes to book smarts. Like I'm smart, but when you put it on paper, it's like my brain shuts off.
Yeah.
But my interview skills were good. So I was constantly in spot one, two, or three to get hired, but it would be somebody that they knew or somebody that they had a relationship with that would always get it. And I don't blame them. Like there was never even. So I finally got picked up, and it's been that way ever since. I love it.
Yeah.
There's challenges, but I love it.
Yeah. How have you seen it change since 2005 to now?
Oh,
Mhm.
and it's night and day difference.
Yeah.
So when I got in, still kind of the old school police way, right? Um, the way they taught you to handle people were crack them in the sternum with a baton, like choke people out when they're fighting, like just old school ways. Cut blood supply off to the brain, so not oxygen but blood supply, so it would close the window, but you could
Yeah.
bring them back.
Yeah.
Um, and now it's now like soft hand techniques, maybe some arm bars, things like that. Just things that would get them to comply that don't look as barbaric.
Mhm.
As far as dealing with the public, I'll be honest with you, man. Not much has changed for me or the guys that I work with. We work in an area where it's tougher, right? It's a tougher neighborhood. My first police agency I worked for was kind of a podunk, roll up the sidewalks at 9 a.m. So the transition from that to where I am now was a big transition. I had to get used to just knowing that people hated me,
Mhm.
whether it be my skin color or because of the uniform I was wearing, right? So that was an adjustment. Um, so all of this stuff that's happened in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, it hasn't changed my job, except for like policies that come out and things that happen throughout the state that the representatives put through. Makes our jobs a little tougher, but all in all, I mean, the people still don't want to talk to us. People still don't like us. Even if you're there to help them, a lot of times they're not grateful. They just okay, and they walk away. Like everything's
Yeah.
fine and dandy.
Yeah.
But what I hear from a lot of the guys that work in the other communities, it's changed quite a bit. Um, because there's a lot of people who still see what the media shows and take it at face value.
Yeah.
So, and when you don't have any other sources, so it's not like they can go somewhere and see the actual footage of whatever the incident was, right? They see video clips of this, that, and the other, audio clips of this, that, and the other that are pasted together, copy, and they don't, they paint a partial picture and it's created. Whereas if they could say, all right, well, I know that this is in either side of the news, doesn't matter which side, um, they create their own image that they want you to see and how they want it to be portrayed. So there's no real true story shown, if you will. And yeah, there's bad apples in the profession, and they've been highlighted. Some of them have been highlighted. There's a lot of good guys out there, man. A lot of good guys who actually give a shit, and
Yeah.
it does make it tough.
Yeah. What would you tell a rookie coming on, just starting out to be an officer, that you wish you would have had that advice, or what would you tell them now coming in?
Something I'm fortunate. My field training officer was a younger guy, and he'd had quite a bit of time on it. He just said, number one, always show respect, no matter who the hell you're dealing with. Treat them how you want to be treated, because just because this day you're dealing with them, you're seeing them on their absolute worst day. No matter what, it's in their mind, it's their worst day of their life. The police are here. Don't take it personal, right? Just treat them how you'd want to be treated. And the other part was don't take anything personal. A lot of times people are lashing out at you. They don't know who you are. They're just lashing out at you because you wear the uniform.
Hmm.
So I would tell, number one, be respectful and have some compassion, but just treat people how you want to be treated. Because especially in some of the areas where that are surround where I work, they don't give a shit if you're the police. If you're disrespectful, they will beat the shit out of you. I mean, it'll be a war.
Yeah.
So
Do you see a lot more people coming on? I know since the dynamics have changed about the relationships, are there a lot more people applying, or are there less people because they don't want to deal with all the bullshit going on?
So I just happened to overhear. We're actually hiring right now, and we've only had 9 applicants,
Mm.
which is not normal. And I know Chicago PD is hiring right now, and they, after 2 weeks of their posts being out and on the radio and everything, they didn't have a single applicant. It's tough, and it's I think a lot of it is because people don't understand. Nobody wants. Let's just face it. Nobody wants to dive into that headache, right? Um, there are times where I think about quitting and walking away, but when you have people that have given everything, given their life to do what you do, it makes you take a step back. Like, well, I haven't given enough. I can't walk away from this. What makes me so special to think, oh, this is so hard, I need to walk away, when this guy over here gave his life doing this, right? So my mind constantly turns about things like that. When I was injured and I was off work, I had the opportunity to pension out and be done, and that was my internal battle. Like, I'm busted up, but if there is a chance I can get back, I owe it to everybody before me that couldn't, to at least give it my best.
Yeah.
And if then that time comes, and I had doctors telling me, you're not going back, you're done. And I just said, I have to keep going. I'm not going to let some guy behind a desk look at a computer and tell me that I'm done, because I know in my mind I've got more left in me.
Yeah. Did you get injured on the job? I heard you say you got.
So actually, I've been injured on a job twice, major injuries. One, car was stolen. Guy steals the car. There's 2 kids in the car. It comes out that he stole a car with 2 kids in it. And we get to fighting, and I get the car. We get to fight. He doesn't want to come out of the car. And what happened is he had a crack pipe under his leg, and he's trying to conceal it. So he's trying to keep his legs in the car, and he's holding on the steering wheel. And I'm able to grab his one leg and pull it out. And the pillar of the car was on my right shoulder. And he jerked himself back in and yanked my arm in. ended up tearing my bicep. And I had to have reconstructive shoulder surgery. I was a mess for a while.
Mhm.
I was out for a year. I came back in a year and 2 months to the date. Um, I was run over by a car. Some people trying to steal some packet. I can't really get into too much detail about that because the case is still pending. But basically, they were taking some packages off a porch. I pulled up. I catch them at the last house, and I don't know what she was thinking, but she put the car in drive. I took off running through some yards, and she got me in the second yard and ran me over. So
Wow.
yeah, that was quite the extensive injuries, surgeries, recovery time, and that was the one that they were telling me you're done.
Yeah.
Um, I had they had to repair tendons in my ankle, my foot. Um, I mean, I was a mess.
Yeah.
So that was quite the battle mentally. I got into some pretty dark places during those times. You're all hopped up on stupid pills. So that's all they want to do is give you painkillers and
Yeah.
sit on the couch. Yeah, okay. My family leaves and leaves you there in your thoughts, and you get some pretty dark places. So it was a big mental struggle. Yeah, the physical aspect was tough, but and then again, that was my thoughts where this can't be the end of the road. This can't. I have to keep going. And then the thought is most police officers, that's your identity. That's who you are. I know there's a lot of people who try to take that away and say, no, it's just your job. You can do more afterwards. But when you've dedicated so much time to that, it's hard to just think of your life any other way, right? You live by certain standards now, and you've done so for so long. Now what?
Yeah.
So those were my toughest hurdles. And what's funny is I was at a Halloween party or Oktoberfest or something last year, and this was before I was released to go back to work. And some guy out of nowhere, the other side of the party, comes up and says, "Are you okay?" And I thought, I don't know this guy from Adam. And I was like, no, I'm not. It's like I could see it. So we sat and talked for like 2 hours at this party. My wife kept coming up and trying to use code words to try to pull me away, like this creeper was bothering me, right? But I'm like, no, I'm good. We're just chatting.
Yeah.
It was nice talking with him. He ends up being a therapist, but he could see it from across the room.
Wow.
That was a big turning point for me. And then when it came time, um, I still was in need of some back surgeries, and workman's comp cut off all care because they had videos of me in the gym working out. And I'm like, look, this is me trying to get better. This isn't me coming here, oh, cool, I'm just living the best life. Like, I'm a fucking wreck.
Yeah.
And therapy twice a week isn't helping me. And my therapist and my doctors both know what I'm doing in here. But it didn't matter. They cut care off right away and said, well, you got to go back to work. They sent me to one of their independent doctors who said I was fine, and away I went.
Wow.
So my administration's like, are you okay to come back? I was like, look, I don't have a choice. If I'm okay or if I'm not okay, if I fight it, it's going to take a year of no pay. I can't do that. So I just made it work. My first few months back, it was taking breaks throughout the night, just getting out of the car, stretching, doing my thing, because all that gear and shit on my back was killing me. But I just kept going to the gym every day and doing back work, just making sure my core was engaged, just working a lot of that, building those stabilizers so I could, it would, and that's what allowed me to sleep at night. It allowed me to even stop taking Advil and shit like that. Was, I know this pain in my back is there, but I'm gonna work through it, and I'm gonna keep going. So I still get it, but it's a lot better, a lot better.
I think your fitness before these accidents played a huge role in your recovery, right? Like that's who you are. You're a badass individual, and I'm sure the average person taking those injuries would not have recouped as strongly as you did, right?
So I actually had the doctor tell me that. He said, well, so the guy that I went to right as soon as I got injured was an ortho, and he's the guy who did my shoulder. So I went right back to him because everything he did was great. And he's like, look, man, I'll play the quarterback here, but I can't help you. You're too banged up. So I was like, okay. And he's like, you're fortunate to where you're in such good shape. He goes, but it's going to be a rough road. So after my leg and foot and ankle surgeries, um, they wrapped me up, sent me home. I was a wreck. And so I'm sitting there waiting for my surgery, and I'm the second surgery of the day. I'm in the hospital. I'm like, what's taking so long? They end up almost killing the guy in front of me. So he goes out on the table, the airlifts him out. I'm freaking the fuck out. I'm like, oh my God, these people are gonna kill me. I know it's just a leg surgery, but they just did a shoulder surgery on this guy, and he's being airlifted. I'm screwed.
Yeah.
It was right in the middle of this COVID shit, so nobody was allowed there with me.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so I'm 7 to 10 days post-op. I have to go in for my doctor's appointment. And wrap my leg. And this nurse comes in. She puts this brace on me. She cinches this thing down so tight. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa! Like, I've got incisions everywhere. I've got stitches in my ankle, my foot, my knee. Like, I'm a mess. She's like, oh, you can't hurt this. And I just go, you shouldn't have told me that.
She
I
said,
go, what do you mean?
"You can't
What do
hurt."
you mean I can't hurt this? She goes, the repairs that were made, it's going to take quite a bit for you to screw that up. And that's why I was like, yeah, you shouldn't have said that to me.
Yeah.
So the doctor says, all right, so what I want you to do is start weaning yourself off the crutches. Take it day by day. I got home that day, I threw the crutches aside, and I just started walking back and forth to my living room. And it was literally a month after I joined the Lions Den.
Hmm.
And I started 75 hard that day.
Wow.
I would go outside my driveway and I would just walk up and down the driveway 45 minutes twice a day. And it was the most painful because the tendons and everything in my leg were so rock solid. My feet wouldn't move. I was a fucking mess, man. And it's dead winter. It's January, February. And trudging through snow and everything. I'm just up and down the driveway, up and down the driveway, up and down the driveway. And so I got done, and we go for my first therapy appointment. I go in for my next op. They send me up for therapy. I walk in. I walked into the doctor's office like it was nothing, right? Therapist. He said, "Are you Derek?" And I said, "Yeah." And he looks down at the sheet and he goes, "Aren't you here for ankle and foot and knee therapy?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "How are you walking so well?" And I said, "Well, um, I worked my ass off." I said, "They told me I couldn't hurt it, so I went to work that day. I started up and down the driveway, walking every day." And he's like, "It's insane, man." He goes, "Well, let's get to work." And that was it. That was the start of my rehab.
Yeah.
So,
I had shoulder surgery as well, and I went to the therapist. I did everything they said, and I ended up with frozen shoulder. And
oh, it's terrible. I've heard it's awful.
it's like when you were telling your story, it hurt like a motherfucker, but it was mentally for me too because I was on the shelf for 9 months. I had to sleep like this, like it was terrible. And so, you know, like you said, you got out and started walking on it. They always told me don't surf, and I do jujitsu and fight a lot. And they said don't do any of that. And I listened for 9 months, and then finally I said, "Fuck it, I'm done." I went surfing, and they were always measuring it, right, to see how much it improved after each therapy. And I went in that next day, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, it's so we're doing such a great job. The motions I said, "No, it's not. I went surfing yesterday and I opened it up. I cranked it. I did everything that you told me not to do." And so I just I got fed up and I said, you know what? Enough's enough. I started hitting the gym heavy. I started surfing again, and it 100% got better that way as opposed to, okay, let's do 50 of these a day. And,
Yeah.
sometimes I know they're conservative. I know they have to be conservative, but like you and I and people like us, like sometimes you just got to say, fuck it and push through it and go. Cause we know our bodies, right? And it's,
Oh,
it was tough. It was really hard mentally. And I don't like the Vicodin and all the Percocet bullshit they give you. So I take as little as I can and just weather down and bite down and take the pain. And it was fucking painful. It was awful, but it's just
so I was going through similar with my shoulder. Same thing. Because you walk in there, they do the same 5 exercises, same 5 stretches. Well, we'll just bump it up a little bit today. And I'm like, look, I can't move my shoulder in the pain is in the same damn spot it was for the last 3 weeks. What are we doing?
yeah,
Well, I said, well, nothing. We got to fix this because they're getting ready to cut off care. it's time for me to get better. And what did it for me was it wasn't on purpose. I was at the playground with my kid, and I was just, my arm was still kind of not working.
Yeah.
And he went down the slide. He's like, "Come on, Dad." I was like, and it was a triple slide, and one was like a double hump, the other one was like a single drop, so I went down the drop, not realizing the sides of the slide went up higher.
Mm.
Oh my god, I laid on a friggin'. I mean, when I went down, I think my arms went straight up in the air, and I was like, "Ah!" I screamed. I lay on the. I thought I was done. I was like, "Oh, my shoulder's done for life." And
Yeah.
honestly, it was the best thing that could ever happen to me
Yeah.
because, like, within 3 days, I went from 72% to like 86%. And
Yeah. I had to go back under and he had to manually crank it. And then I was in a brace. The day I got my brace off, I think it was either putting the Christmas lights up or taking them down. And I went up on the roof. And my wife's like, no, 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 don't go. I'm like, I got it. I got it. Bam! I fell and I landed on my shoulder, on the bad one. And only thing I'm thinking is like, shit, my wife's gonna be pissed. But I start sliding down the roof and I was like, oh crap, I gotta stop this. And so I brace myself and I jump up and here she comes out and she's like, what happened? Are you okay? I said, oh yeah, yeah. I just tripped and I stomped to catch myself. And I'm trying to play it off like I didn't just fall and shit. And she goes, really? I go, yeah, yeah, that's what happened. And she goes, Josh, do you want to really tell me? I'm like, what? And she goes, I had blood on my face. I'm all fucked up. And then she's like, get your ass off the freaking roof. I'm like, all right, I'm done. And from that moment on, I was like, maybe I should start taking it a little bit easy on myself. But shortly after, I started surfing and said, fuck it. And, it is what it is, man. We just got to get through that shit. But putting people like us on the shelf is mentally, like you were saying, it's such a mental battle. Like, I've had knee surgery, shoulder, I've broken things, but for some reason that and being shelved up for 9 months was hard. It was really hard.
yeah, you know, before that second injury, this last one, I've never had, even through my shoulder surgery, man, my mind was right. I mean, boom, solid. I knew my goal. I knew I was going. It was happening. But the second one, man, it put so much doubt and fear and anxiety and depression. Like and that was the worst because I've never dealt with anything like that before.
Yeah.
It's my wife. She's always dealt with anxiety. She had a real rough past, right? So she's got a lot going on. And for me, she'd go through these episodes. I'm like, oh, it's cool. It'll be fine. Like I'm just that asshole. And then going through it, it then opened my eyes to realize that this shit ain't no joke. Like you need to go help. You need to get help. Talk to people. I'm not going somewhere where they're gonna give me a bunch of drugs, pills,
Mm.
things to make me feel better. Because I've seen people that take that shit, and a lot of times it's just like, oh yeah, okay, more of a vegetable, like just kind of going through the motions. And I'm like, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I joined Lions Not Sheep was or the Lions Den, because I was just an absolute mess
Yeah.
and I didn't know what to do with myself. And I was on the verge of blowing my brains out, to be real.
Yeah.
Um, and when that day came and I was going to, a voice in my head was, Daddy, will you play with me? I'm like, fuck, man, I can't. What am I doing? I can't do this. So I put the gun down and I picked up my phone, and I found the first thing was the Lions Den opened up, and he's
Mhm.
like, you want more life, whatever, finding direction, purpose. And I had just created this darkness around me. Like, I mean, in all honesty, it was created from my own mind. Looking
Mhm.
back now, when I was in it, I couldn't see anything past my nose, but everything was. My wife was there for me, my kid, like everything was okay. I was in self pity and this darkness in myself.
Yeah.
So the Lions Den was like the biggest help for me getting me out of that spot. And then, I joined Apex and some other coaching groups, and just being around people like that and eliminating any type of negative. Because like if something come up in politics, I just fall into this big anxiety. Oh my God, the world's coming to an end. If they get if this guy gets voted in, if this law like all
Yeah.
out of my control. But I had just created this whole world of anxiety.
Yeah.
And it's all because you stuck me on a fucking couch and you pumped my body full of dope.
Mhm.
And like I said, well, like you were talking, you put somebody who's high performing and you stick them in a corner, don't move, you'll go fucking bananas.
Yeah. Yeah, and you think, and I'm much like you. It's like I thought I was mentally prepared. I was like, oh, surgery, I'll be done, real quick. And I'm in a mastermind group with Mark Evans too, and it does help you. Like I always talk to this group and say, I'm really appreciative of everybody in this group because I'm kind of like the put mud on it, get back up and keep going. In my no, don't ask for help, don't ask for this and that. My wife just told me yesterday it was our anniversary, and I posted something, just said happy anniversary, I love you, blah blah blah. And she goes, that was really touching. It almost made me cry. I said, why? And she goes, because you don't open up like that. You don't talk about how you feel very often. I said, well, to me, I think I'm pretty vocal, but I guess, I don't ask for help for a lot of things. So the group to me, I'm always telling them, hey, because if there's ever a problem or, business wise, I say, hey, does anybody have this answer? And 20 guys will respond to me. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to like finding the solutions to myself, and I drives myself crazy, but I'm always pushing by myself. And to have these guys and group and gals in the mastermind groups helping me, I'm blown away. And I'm like, holy shit! Like, there's other people willing to help me is an awesome feeling, and I'm just filled with gratitude. And so, yeah, I mean, to me, masterminds have really, and coaching and all that. And people are always asking me like, oh, what are you in these groups for? Oh, you sit around and sing kumbaya. I'm like, well, if that's your perception and it's not for you, I said it's nothing but been great for me. Ever since the Lions Den, it's opened up other things for me, and I've absolutely loved it. And it's so beneficial. And we can be as strong as we can be on the outside, but fuck, man, sometimes we need to, like that guy came to you at that meeting or at that party and said, "Hey, are you okay?" I think that's great, and I think more people need to do that. And to me, that's what the masterminds are for, or I utilize them for, is to like just help in business and life and everything. And I think they're great for that.
Yeah, I've always been that way too. I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
always fine, right? I'm good. I don't need help. And that comes from my old man was just a hard ass. He just no
Yeah.
feelings. He had a rough childhood, so he was just a calloused dude, like
Yeah.
period. Um, he wanted everybody to be afraid of him. He he was never abusive. He was just cold, right?
Yeah.
Um, so for me to ask for help or to share how I'm feeling was like unheard of. And
Yeah.
so now I do it every day. I post almost daily, and I post about what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and because it helps me.
Mhm.
I mean, it's been made a world of difference. Like today, my truck breaks down, like we were talking, and I get it to the shop. Somehow I got it to the dealership, and he's like, "Oh, you need to ride home? We've got the busing service." I was like, "No, dude, I live like a mile down the road. I'm fine." Well, I had two chair in the bags. I had a gas can. I had two bags of ammo. I had like all this shit. So I'm walking out like a homeless man, walking down the street. Some guy, random dude, pulls up in a van. He's like, "Hey, man, you need a ride?" I'm like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Right? And growing up, don't talk to strangers, right? So I'm like, "No, man, I'm good." He's like, "You don't look good, dude. You got a lot going on there." He's like, "Just hop in." He said, "Where do you live?" I said, uh, "About a mile down the road." He said, "I'll give you a ride, man." I said, "I'm going this direction." He said, "Looks like that's the direction you're walking." I'm like, "All right." So I basically fucking hitchhiked home. My wife's like, "You got a van with a stranger?" I'm like, "Hey, dude, he was in more danger than I was. I don't give a fuck what happened. Like, this dude, ain't nothing happening to me. I don't
Yeah.
care if he's armed. I don't care what's going to happen. If he can get me home, we'll figure it out on the way."
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's a good, I like that. So he was just a nice guy helping you out, right?
Nice guy. He's not from the area.
Yeah.
He owns a business that's like an hour and a half south of here. He was
Yeah.
up here at the dealership. He does like battery exchange stuff for dealerships. So he came in, he picked up all their old batteries, was taking it back to his shop. He's like, "Yeah, man, just throw your shit in the back." He goes, "Well, keep it right over here." I'm thinking, is there like people back there? Are they gonna fucking take me? Like, I'm thinking of the movie Taken and all this other bullshit. I'm like, fuck. So I'm just watching him,
Before you
looking in
get
the
in the car, you say,
van.
I have a certain particular set of skills that if you try me,
Right,
look you up.
right. So I got in the van. I was pretty confident, but I still, the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm just watching his hands. I'm just like, hey,
Yeah.
he was a nice guy. He's just doing a good deed. That's all. But
Yeah. I have a similar dad like that, like, great guy, but had a rough childhood, military school and all this, and my wife, when we first started dating, she's like, "You guys never hug, like, you're not very affectionate." I said, "Yeah, it's just not the way we are." But now, I've been with her last night was 14 years we got married. I hug my dad every time I see him now. Before when I get there and when I leave, it's like just part of like, I didn't think of it. I was like, "Oh, we just don't hug. I don't know. It's not a big deal. I know he loves me. I love him." But through the years, I've made a point, and he's still kind of weird when I do it. He's like, "Yeah," but I'm like, "Hey, fuck it. Not gonna be around forever." And so I make it a point now to tell my son, I love him all the time. I'm always like, when he's running by me, I'm grabbing his head. I'm super affectionate with him. Like I said, I didn't have a rough childhood, but my dad wasn't affectionate to me. So I try to show my son all the time, like, we'll be driving randomly. I love you. And whoever said, it's like, oh, good one, dad. I love you too. And it's just little stuff like that that I love. And as a person, I wasn't doing that 20 years ago. I was the hard ass, don't look at me, don't talk to me kind of guy. And now, maybe because of my old age and my wife is, roughened out the edges. And so, yeah, it's a very similar dad to what you're describing with yours.
So he, when I went to Lions Den Live, the time where we met,
Mhm.
and after the kid, they made the guy go call his kid in the lobby.
Yeah, I remember that.
We're standing in line. It's my wife and I. Now I haven't said I love you to my old man since I was like 12 years old.
Mhm.
I'm 41. Standing in line, and this voice in my head said, "Call your dad. Call your dad. Call your dad. Call your dad." And I'm like, what if he's not going to say it back? Like this is going to be a wasted phone call. It's going through my head, and I'm waiting in line to take a picture with Sean, and my wife's standing there, and I said, I pick up. I didn't say anything. I just grabbed my phone. I pulled it out. It was like 1%. I opened it and it died. I was like, well, that's a sign. I'm not calling him. And it just kept going. Call your dad. Call your dad. Call your dad. I'm like, fuck. I'm like stressing the fuck out. I told my wife, I said, give me your phone. She goes, what? I said, give me your phone. She gives me your phone. I call my dad. I was like, hey. He's like, yeah. What do you want? And I'm like, I just called to see how things were going. And I wanted to tell you that I loved you. And dude, I was bawling a little bitch. And he's like, who told you to call me and tell you that?
Wow.
And I was like, nobody. So I said, I can't remember when I've said it to you. I said, it had to be when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, kind of like did a light chuckle, like a huh. He's like, all right. He's like, well, I love you too. And dude, like, my wife's fucking bawling. I'm crying. I'm, because I'm building up this story in my head that he doesn't love me, right? Like this is a waste of time, like all this shit for nothing.
Yeah.
Had I made that phone call 10 years ago, crazy. It's crazy the way our mind works.
Yeah. I've my parents have been going through some health issues lately, and so I call them almost daily. I've been seeing them a lot, and I always make sure I say it. If he might get weirded out by it or whatever, but my mom's super affectionate. Like they're both into the spectrum. She's like huggy, huggy, always. She's that person, and then I got my dad who's like, "Don't touch me." So
Yeah.
it's good, and however you got to get there, whether it's like the Lions Den or whatever, I think it's huge. And Mark Evans, which spoke at that event, and that's how I met Mark. He wrote a note or he wrote a letter to his mom or somebody and said, "This is what I think," right? Just to get it all out there. So that's kind of been on my to-do list because I don't think I know I don't say it enough of, thank you for raising me and doing everything, busting your ass and giving me the life I have. Because I don't think I say it enough, and especially with my mom. She was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and it's always on the tip of my tongue, but I don't want to stress her out. I don't want to make her cry. She will cry
Yeah.
over everything, and so it's just I think we need to say it more. And I think we always put up this big, huge wall of like why I shouldn't or why we shouldn't, but at the end of the day, fuck. You say I love you. What's he gonna say? Fuck off. No, I mean, nothing's gonna happen. It's just I think it needs to be said more, and which is hard for me because 5 years ago I would have been like, "Fuck, why do I need to say it, or why should I say it?" And it's like, even that Lions didn't really open up my shit. I still have that journal that I wrote right here at my desk,
Yeah.
and I look, I because how he asked us to go outside and write a bunch of stuff down, and I mean, that shit's gold right there that he made us, that he got out of me. And I brought my wife as well, and she was like, I was blown away how open you were and the person that you become since, these events that you've been attending. So yeah, I mean,
Well, like
everybody gets different
my
value
wife's
from
that
it.
way,
Yeah.
and so my wife is very she's had I mean, she's had a rough past,
Mhm.
and she knew when they were asking like who in your life, you said like the crabs in the bucket, how the crabs grab you as you're going up to pull you back down, and she knew instantly. And I'm not going to say it just in case, but she told me exactly and who in her life it was, like instantly. And going there, she's like, "You're in this fucking cult. I don't know what the hell you're
That's what
taking me
my wife
to."
thought. Yeah.
We get to the airport and it's all sister wives and all this crazy shit's going on, and she's like, "What in the hell?" And then we get to the event in the meeting, and it changed her a lot too, man. And now, mind you, what I have become since then is like mentally, I'm way stronger mentally now than I ever have, and it's bleeding off. Like I'm so consistent with lifting and doing crazy challenges and just shit and doing what I said I'm going to do, that my wife now is working out sometimes twice a day. She'll do some hard ass workout. Now I live on a couple acres, and my property is just a giant hill. She goes down after her workout. She walks down to the bottom of the hill. She gets in a squatting position and walks backwards up the hill like 10 times after every one of her workouts. Like she's going, and she never did any of that stuff. She never worked out. She never did anything.
Yeah.
And now it's like consistently every day she's working out. Like, so that stuff bleeds out. And then one day I come home and there's weights laying on the floor. I was like, "Oh, baby, work out already?" And my son, 6 years old, he's like, "No, Dad, that's me. I was working out. I
Nice.
did some." At least they said I did some jumping jacks and push-ups. Then I did some curls for the girls. I started laughing. I was like, "That's awesome."
Nice. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
another thing out of Sean is always saying is don't tell him, show him. And so that's stuck with me forever because my kid was, at the time he was 6 or 7 and now he's 9. And that's what I always tell people when they ask advice and stuff. I said, don't tell your kid, don't tell him to go, you need to be fit or this and that. Show him, right? I go to the gym every morning at 5, 6 in the morning. We go to jujitsu twice, 3 times a week. If I can't tell him to do something that I'm not willing to do myself, right? We both did a jiu-jitsu tournament a couple weeks ago. I'm
awesome.
47, and I got some friends who can't do shit with their kids because they're out of shape. They can't run a mile. It's like, well, that's the life you chose. I'm always going to be fit because my kid has a lot of energy. And the day that I can't keep up with them, like I said
Never
earlier,
put me in a box.
yeah, exactly. Put a fucking bullet in my head because
Yeah.
I can't, my wife, shit, I'm 47. She's still talking about having kids. And I'm like, fuck, okay, I got to keep going on that treadmill thing because this is going to be, I'm going to be the 88-year-old dad at a graduation going, yeah, kiddo. But yeah, just, show them, don't tell them. Or, yeah, just we are, because they learn more, right? I definitely learn more by watching and visual. And if we're sitting on our ass, just telling them to do push ups, and it's like, fuck, no, we got to do those 1,000 push ups. He was laughing his ass off with me. He's like, what are you doing these for? I'm like, I accepted a challenge, son. You got to keep going. So, yeah, they're watching. They're definitely watching us. And like your boy doing the curls for the girls, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Love it. Yeah.
I tell him all the time because he's like, "Oh, you're going when I leave for work, you going to catch bad guys?" I'm like, "Yep." So when he's like, "You're going to the gym again?" I'm like, "I have to. I have to be at my best. So when I go to work, you know, when it's time to give it my all, I've got a little extra to give."
Yeah.
So I try to send the message to him that we always do our best, no matter what we're doing. We do it all the way. We
Yeah.
don't go in and half-ass something. We don't go in part way. We do it. It's 100%
Hmm.
until the fact either it's done or there's no chance of going further.
Yeah.
And and it helps me in my job a lot because, well, for instance, yesterday I had to run, I don't know how far it was. It was like 10 or 11 houses. And then I had to dive into a lake to go save somebody, right? So it was like immediate. So I had to sprint and then take my shit off and jump in the water and swim fucking out in the middle of this lake to go grab this woman.
Yeah.
And, you know, afterwards, my sarge was like, fuck, man, after running that well, I was gassed. And I was like, it never even clicked in my head that I was tired. Like I never even thought about it.
Yeah.
I don't even remember if I was tired from running. Where and the other two guys were standing there like, well, I was I was in it,
Yeah.
right? Boom, boom, done. And I'm thankful. That was another eye opener for me. Like, there's a lot of times, I've been caught and chased somebody, and they went in the house. I followed them in, and now I'm in a fight with 10 guys in this house. I'm by myself. I just got to hold them off long enough so I get some backup, throwing tables and chairs at me and shit. Like, I've been in those scenarios. I've been in the middle of a crowd of 60 people, and I'm fighting for myself,
Yeah.
waiting to get some help. So I know the importance, but it takes an event like that every now and again to snap it back into reality, to like, this is why we're doing this. I'm not going to the gym today. No, that's my life now. There's no, I do this because I want to look cool, or I do this because I want to build big muscles. I do it because if I don't do it, maybe that half a second or 2 seconds, I'll be late. I'll be too late. Or maybe I can't hold them off long enough to stay alive to wait for backup to get there.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, the one fight, it was a whole house full of dudes. I'm fighting these guys. It seemed like in my mind 30 minutes before backup got there. It ended up being like 6 or 7 minutes, but I like literally felt like I was in there for an hour. Like, where are these people? Are they ever coming? I keep getting on the radio the best I can. Hey, I need help. I need help. But had I not been in the shape that I'm in, where do we go? And what's sad is that, a lot of guys that work the job, they're not in good shape. They don't take care of themselves. And listen, it's not easy. This
Mm.
profession, the stress, the terrible shift work. Like, just this last weekend, I worked the homicide. I worked 20 hours, and then I worked 19 hours with a 5-hour break in between. Like, there's no, and so it's easy for me to come home the next day and be like, man, I need a day's rest. No, fuck that. I'm going to the gym. I know I have to do this. I don't want to. I want to stay home. I want to spend time with my wife and my son. But they know this is a priority for me. I got to go.
Yeah.
So yesterday was another eye opener, man. You did this. You did. So this morning, first thing, wake up, going to the gym. I'm going to the gym. I'm going, and it's going to be that way forever. Well, at least I can't.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even in law enforcement, and I do the same thing for the same reason. My main goal is staying fit, and jujitsu and Muay Thai and everything that I do is to protect my family. And people are like, "Well, you live in a nice area by the beach. How dangerous is it?" I'm like, if I had that mentality, fucking shoot me, because I'm not. I may never have to use it, and that would be awesome, and that'd be great. But if it ever comes up and I do need it, and I fucking freeze, or I can't do anything physical, or I gas out after one punch, then I've lost the battle of life, right? So that's why I keep doing it. It's like I run scenarios in my head all day, every day, because it's good. People think I'm paranoid. People think I'm nuts. I'm like, no, it's actually soothing. Like, I don't count sheep to go to bed. I think, okay, if a guy breaks in, how quick can I get this and that, and then do all this actions? And I like it. So we could do this for another 3 hours. I want to respect your time. We've been over an hour here, but um, I have so many questions I could ask you, but I don't want to take more of your time in your day. And I know you're busy, but I really like this. I I had so many questions about different aspects, but I think we really delve into some really crucial topics that I didn't think we were going to talk about and get into. And but I really appreciate everything that you added tons of value to me. So I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. Yeah. Anytime, man. Anytime. Always
Yeah.
enjoy it. Always enjoy talking. Anytime I can help spread a message, and if it impacts one person, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. If anybody, got the importance out of this as I did, where can they reach out to you on social or something? How do people get a hold of you?
Um, so my Facebook page, you just look up Derek Depew. My Instagram, it's Living with the Beast. And I've changed it from my name to that just recently. And my platform is just going to be about how you deal with that voice in your head that's constantly telling you what to do, what not to do,
Yeah.
and constantly negating everything that you're trying to work for, because it's in all of us. Every one of us deals with that. What do
Mm.
we, this is going to be heavy. No, shut the fuck up. It's not heavy. We're going for it.
Yeah.
So that's my Instagram. Um, that's pretty. I've got a LinkedIn page. I'm never on it.
Yeah.
It's just too much work to get everywhere. And then I got a TikTok just as recently. which I don't even know what to do with that thing.
I did the same thing. I heard Austin Weatherford. I don't know if you know him, but he's a big social guy, and he was telling get TikTok and this, and I'm like, so I got all the apps because I was all fired up, and now I only use Instagram and Facebook. I'm just getting into the reels on it. I mean, it's a full time job if you wanted to sit there and deal with all these apps and stuff. So I'm with you. I got TikTok and Twitter, but I don't use any of them. It's Facebook and Instagram for me. Those are the basic savvy ones that I can deal with. So I'm in the same.
Sure. And if anybody ever has any questions or just wants to reach out and chat, just reach out. I'm always pretty receptive and I'm pretty active. So
Yeah. Well, Derek, again, I really appreciate. I mean, this was a different show than I usually have, but I loved it. It was great, and I think it's topics that need to be talked about. Um, there was a fight on a couple weeks ago, and the UFC guy said, "Look at, I can talk about the next fight. I can do this," and he says, "But I just lost a friend, and I'm going to his funeral, and I wish he would have picked up the phone and called me. Instead, now I got to go be a pallbearer in his funeral, you know." And so now I think what we talked about was super valuable, and I think more people need to talk about it. So I appreciate it.
hey
Um,
man, thank you. Thank you
yeah.
for having me. I appreciate it too.
All right. I can keep going on. Like I said, we could do this for another 2 hours, but I respect your time. Go get your truck fixed, hang out with your family, and thank you, Derek. I appreciate it very much.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
All right. See ya.
Bye.